Deep in the jungle, a lioness spends her days training her cubs in the brutal mechanics of survival. She guides them to safe watering holes, demonstrates how to move through the thick brush unseen, and identifies exactly which predators to avoid. But for two particular cubs, that education was cut short. Poachers swept through the territory, captured the young lions, and relocated them entirely to a traveling circus. Their new environment operated on entirely different rules. The circus owner placed them in a secure enclosure. They received premium meat daily, regular checkups from a veterinarian, and absolute protection from the wild. This split-screen comparison reveals the hidden cost of captivity. On the left, physical strength climbs as they grow into massive adults. But on the right, their capacity to survive plummets toward zero. They forgot how to track prey, sense danger, and defend their territory. The circus owner looked at these massive animals and felt proud. He believed he was providing a flawless, entirely stress-free life, making the tragic mistake of equating physical safety with actual capability. Years later, the circus went out of business. The owner, wanting to do the right thing, drove his prized animals deep into a protected nature reserve, opened their cages, and released them back into their natural habitat. The animals immediately faltered. They wandered the forest floor, unable to track the scent of water. They stalked prey clumsily, entirely unequipped to secure their own food, and completely missed the territorial markings of rival predators. A few weeks later, the owner returned to check on them. He found the massive, seemingly perfect animals lying completely lifeless on the forest floor, killed by a pack of wild wolves. Staring at the wreckage, the owner was paralyzed with confusion. He couldn't comprehend how the apex predators of the animal kingdom were unable to defend themselves against a fraction of their weight in wolves. The answer was in the cage he built. By providing every facility required to simply exist, he actively robbed them of the independence required to actually live. In the modern world, we act as the circus owners, and our children are the lions growing up inside the cage. It is a natural parental instinct to shield our kids from the hardships we faced. We work to provide massive homes, premium education, and luxury cars, and heavy bank accounts, so they never have to feel the sting of scarcity. We package this extreme provision as love. But insulating a child from every possible friction point confuses temporary comfort with lifelong preparation. There is a massive psychological gap between inheriting an asset and possessing the aptitude to manage it. Handing a child wealth without context is exactly like handing them a highly complex, loaded machine without an instruction manual. This flowchart illustrates how that gap plays out. A massive inheritance block drops into the center, but without financial literacy or an understanding of hard work, the wealth bleeds out through bad investments, poor boundaries, and impulsive choices until it hits zero. Transferring extreme wealth without concurrently teaching the skills required to protect it doesn't secure a child's future. It actively endangers it. That danger comes from the outside, because human society has its own equivalent of a wild wolf pack, waiting for easy prey. These human wolves aren't lurking in the woods. They are manipulative peers, exploitative financial actors, toxic partners, and the sudden, unexpected economic crises that eventually hit everyone. This radar chart tracks an overprotected child's defenses. Comfort and wealth metrics are maxed out, but threat detection and boundary setting sit at absolute zero. When the balanced perimeter line appears, the structural deficit is obvious. Lacking conflict resolution, they simply fold to manipulators. By sheltering a child from minor, everyday frictions, like a bad grade, a tough job, or a difficult social encounter, we practically ensure that they will be entirely defenseless when a massive macro catastrophe inevitably strikes them later in life. To fix this, we have to stop measuring our success by what we give our children and start measuring it by what we allow them to experience. Psychologists call this constructive struggle. It is the intentional process of stepping back and letting a child grapple with a problem, fail, and figure out a solution on their own. In practice, this means letting them fall off a bicycle. It means assigning them chores that actually impact the household. It means forcing them to make age-appropriate decisions and live with the direct consequences of those choices. This structural diagram maps out the modern survival instincts they need to build. A heavy roof of self-reliance requires 3 strong pillars: digital literacy to navigate technology safely, social awareness to read people's true intentions, and critical problem-solving to adapt when things break. A parent's true role is to rigorously prepare a child for a road that will inevitably be rugged, rather than trying to pave a perfectly smooth, hazard-free road for them. Ultimately, every parent has to choose between leaving behind perishable assets or imperishable skills. Physical assets are inherently fragile. Bank accounts drain. Luxury cars depreciate and break down. Real estate can be mismanaged, seized, or lost entirely in a market crash. True wealth is internal. Knowledge, strong character, and deep self-reliance are the only assets that survive a crisis intact. A child equipped with these can lose every dollar they own and still rebuild their life from scratch. Prioritize building a child's internal survival mechanisms over expanding their external comfort. Teach them the exact value of time, the mechanics of money, and the power of their own resilience. Focus on handing your child the tools to construct their own future, rather than simply providing a finished room for them to sit in. The ultimate inheritance is the capacity to build and protect their own life.